today's presentation is the introduction to the 5 elements of self-care. We're going to introduce that a little bit. We're going to define health and disease, review the evidence, and discuss the current state of healthcare in our community, and provide an overview of the 5 elements. The definition of health is the state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. It's not merely the absence of disease. And this is from the World Health Organization. The definition of disease, and let's see if I can make this stick, is a disorder of structure or function that produces specific signs or symptoms or affects a specific location and is not simply a direct result of injury. Essentially the lack of health. Hi. So healthy people, why do you want to be healthy in the first place? Well, you feel good. You're free from physical discomfort. You feel good in this body. You have fully functioning systems. If you do get sick, you recover quickly. You avoid developing chronic disease or minimize disease burden. There's some diseases that we can't avoid. We're just born with them, or they develop, or for whatever reason. But we can, if you're in a healthy state, you minimize how much that disease affects you. If you're healthy, you live beyond average life expectancy if there's no accidents. You're able to express your emotions appropriately. You're well connected to yourself and others. You find satisfaction with your daily life, and you're involved in and positively impact your community. So when we talk about, say, healing our planet, healing our environmental issues, it really starts with ourselves. Healthy people make a healthy planet. Unhealthy people make an unhealthy planet. In order for us to fix this planet, we have to address the health of the individual cells of this organism. That's the Gaia hypothesis, unless anyone hasn't heard of that. Okay, and so people in disease, oh, it worked, don't feel good. So it's the opposite. They experience physical discomfort, impaired body systems that don't recover from acute illness. You take weeks and weeks to recover from pneumonia. You have chronic diseases, and you feel them. You don't always live to the average life expectancy. You have difficulty expressing your emotions appropriately. We'll go more into how that's connected with disease. You feel disconnected from yourself and from others. You don't like your job. You probably aren't doing anything that's really fun because you don't feel good. And you don't really get involved in your community. So our bodies are actually quite incredible. This organism, this meat suit that we drive around, our capacity to adapt and heal is immensely massive. It's massive. So why, if we have all these systems, our immune system, why do we develop disease in the first place? And so people have tried to figure this out. You know, like you don't get a heart disease because of an aspirin deficiency. You don't get depression from a Prozac deficiency. So why are we developing these diseases? Dr. Bill Rawls has a theory isolating these 7 causes of disease. I'd like to point out that the word stress occurs 3 times. So different forms of stress, free radicals and inflammation, which could be connected with stress, toxins in our environment, radiation, and microbes. Not to be outdone, Mr. Rhymey name, Dr. Terry Walls, also has his top 7 causes of diseases. A lot of similarities, food, toxins, stress, but he also adds more lifestyle stuff, inadequate exercise and sleep, and inefficient enzymes, which has to do with nutrition as well. So it's not a straight answer. When we try to study these things, it's not like we can create people that, okay, all these people are the same, and we're going to split them up into 2 groups, and then we're going to see, test one thing at a time. That's not life. We're in this big, cosmic experiment right now. So, but what we do know, what we can show, is the effects of unmanaged stress on the body. And so this is a short, not complete list at all. But symptomatically, we see increases in blood sugar. Our gut becomes leaky. We get really hungry. We crave sugar. We reduce our ability to burn our body fat, increase our fat actually. Even our liver gets fat. We suppress our hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, which is what your fight or flight is based on. Essentially, you overuse it until it burns out. And that weakens your immune system, because that's what it's designed for. Reduces all your hormones, causes depression, anxiety, and mood imbalances, and contributes to cardiovascular disease. the medical community is starting to wake up to the fact that stress causes massive problems in us, and there's a mounting evidence of its connections to autoimmune disease, to cancer, to many, many other things. So this is a very short list. So one thing to consider is that stress is actually essential. For us as human beings, it's called eustress, E-U-S-T-R-E-S-S. And what that means is just a little bit of nudging out of our comfort zone, so we adapt, we grow, we change, we get better. If we didn't have stress, we wouldn't change, and we wouldn't actually survive very long. We, as an organism, it's our calling to adapt to stress. So how we manage the stress is important, and it actually is being shown to directly influence our DNA expression. If you are not doing some form of daily stress management, you will sabotage anything else you do for self-care. Doesn't matter how well you eat, doesn't matter how much you sleep, doesn't matter how much you drink water or exercise. If you are not managing your stress appropriately, you are storing it in this container, and it will continue to cause damage. There is a growing field in medicine called psychoneuroimmunology, and it can also be extended to psychoneuroimmunoendocrinology. Dr. Gabor Mate, he's based out of Vancouver. He's fantastic. I am devouring this book right now. If you haven't read it and you're interested in the evidence behind what stress does to the body, he does it remarkably well. It illustrates through patient examples and through evidence. And he is a fantastic person to follow. He does talks in Vancouver all the time and has other books as well. I highly recommend this book. So people are trying to figure out, well, not everybody's getting sick and dying, right? So have you heard of the Blue Zones? Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is incredible. So Dan Buettner got curious. Why are some people living longer than the rest of us? What's going on here? He identified these 5 longevity hotspots in the world, and these are places where they have a greater proportion of people living beyond 100. And they are in Okinawa, Japan, which is this beautiful place down here, Icaria, Greece, Sardinia, Italy, Nicoya, Costa Rica, and the Seventh-day Adventist community in Loma Linda, California. And what he found by studying these cultures is that they share these 9 factors in common. One is that they move naturally. So they're not going to CrossFit, they're not pumping iron at the gym, they're not running marathons. They're gardening, they're walking, they are participating in life in a physical manner. They're constantly being nudged to physical activity. So these places also have really low rates of things being used for machines to do their tasks, like they're doing it themselves physically. 2 is a sense of purpose, a reason to wake up in the morning. So it's they say that the 2 most dangerous years of your life are the year you were born and the year that you retire. And that is because you lose your sense of purpose. And so people in these areas don't necessarily retire. They continue to contribute in some way to their families, to their communities. They keep going. They don't hang up their hat and put their feet up. They have something to wake up for. The 80% rule, which is to stop eating when you feel 80% full. Overeating is a cause of being overweight and is linked, therefore, to rest of disease. So generally these societies eat a small meal in the late afternoon or early evening and then nothing for the rest of the day. And if you attend my talk, which I'll have in the future, on intermittent fasting, and we'll actually talk about it in the Earth module here, that actually allows the body to have a period of fasting. With the exception of the Seventh-day Adventists in California, they all, with dinner, have a glass of 2 or wine. And but that's not just the wine. They're also in community. They're with their families. They're socializing. It's a time of connection and celebration. Belong. So all of these zones belong to some sort of faith-based services 4 times a month. So when you look at, say, some areas of North America, we don't necessarily have that strong of a spiritual connection anymore. That's not to say it has to be a church. Lots of people, say, use a yoga studio or other community centers to belong to their community. But the faith-based services also have that added dimension of kind of tapping into the true nature of the self. And so that appears to be very important. So loved ones first. Their aging parents are kept nearby, either in the house or in the neighborhood. They commit to a life partner, very important, and they invest in their children. The documentary Heal, has anyone seen this on Netflix? So if you have Netflix, this is worthwhile. So essentially, it's addressing that the most powerful healer is within. And Dr. Kelly Turner in this documentary identifies 9 things that she feels will help heal yourself by yourself. And again, we're going to diet, taking control of your health. I often tell my patients, you're the CEO of your own health. I'm just an advisor. Same thing with your doctor. Follow your intuition, so your gut feeling. Using herbs and supplements, when needed, targeted and high quality. Releasing suppressed emotions, this is huge. Increasing your positive emotions. Embracing social support, so being connected. Deepening your spiritual connection. And having strong reasons for living. So we're seeing a lot of parallels between these and the blue zones. And blue zones have, the evidence of people living to 100. So what's going on here? We actually have a really good life expectancy. It's been increasing for a while. 80 years for males and for 84 years for females. The gap is narrowing though. A health-adjusted life expectancy is taking off the years where we're expected to be disabled due to disease. And so for males that's 69%, or 69 years, and for females it's 70.5. So some things I want to recognize is that we experience more stress than our ancestors ever did. In one day, we take in more information than our ancestors did in their entire lifetime. So that is a lot to process. If you even just look at our environment, we have a lot to process in our brains. That's stressful on our system. Our neurology hasn't really adapted for 10,000 years. So our stress is different than our ancestors, but our basic biology is the same. We also have way more toxins. I've read different estimates, but it's in the tens of thousands since the 50s, right? So, I hear a lot, we don't need to detox. Our livers detox. Well, sure, but our livers were designed for 10,000 years ago before these tens of thousands of toxins. There's an upper limit to everything. Our livers are great at detoxifying, but it can't reasonably do that without any limit, right? We have processed foods. So we're not doing the manual labor in our garden. We're driving to the store and we're not just avoiding the physical activity, we're buying processed foods that aren't healthy for us. And our society values convenience and quick fixes. I decided to become a pharmacist in the 90s. That was when there was a pill for every ill, right? Like, that's when Prozac came out, and that's when everybody seemed like they're go, 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 go. Can't stop to take care of myself. Here's this magic pill. Go, 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 magic pill. So we value that. We also value overworking and pushing through. People brag about how stressed they are, right? People brag about running themselves into the ground and burnout. It's almost a badge of honor. So it's in our culture right now in North America. People taking naps or people taking a rest are seen as lazy. Not just from the outside, but our own internal judgments on ourselves. Essentially, we have a disease care system. Our system is not designed to prevent disease. It's designed to treat it. So you see your doctor when you have a symptom, right? There's not a lot of publicly funded community health care that's focused on preventing disease. We're all focused, hospitals, right? Drugs, doctors, we're all focused on treating it once it's shown up. And there's a separation of the body-mind complex. In medical school and in pharmacy school, we're taught that the body is one thing and the mind and your emotions are another. We have been taught that these two things do not communicate. Stress is not causing your diabetes. Stress is not causing your heart attack, right? Cancer is genetic, right? That's what we're taught as healthcare professionals and in the community. So that's kind of the environment that we're experiencing healthcare in. So the patient's journey, as opposed to the hero's journey right now, is to experience stress. And so that stress, people aren't aware that they're under it. So they go through life continually amassing stress, working longer hours, adding more things onto their plates, neglecting their nutrition and their self-care. So that damages the body and eventually presents with symptoms. People feel symptoms, what do? Go to their doctor, right? They see their doctor 10, 15 minutes tops, right? If you can get in, right, after a month of waiting. So then that physician visit usually is like maybe order some blood work, a little physical exam, but oftentimes ends in a prescription, right? And that's because it's a quick fix. You come to the pharmacy, we tell you all about the prescription, and you go home, 60 to 70% of you will take the prescription as prescribed. We have the stats. But essentially, nobody has talked to you about the stress. Nobody has talked to you about addressing that underlying cause of the symptom. So you go home and you continue to work hard, you continue to eat the same foods, you continue to have lack of sleep, and so the stress continues to cause more damage to the body. So then different symptoms present. The body's like, knock, knock, knock. Hello, can you hear me now? And you're like, okay, back to the doctor. You want to see the doctor, you get your first prescription refilled, and then you get the second prescription added on. Come here, we fill it, right? No change to the underlying disease. Okay, keep going, right? You feel a little better, some of these drugs, right? We lower some numbers, or we relieve a symptom, so then you're like, I'm just gonna keep doing the same thing, right? And it repeats itself. Eventually, it starts to get really, really serious, right? Eventually, we're in the heart attack, we're into the cancer, we're into the autoimmune disease. So, I love this poem. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. So there's 2 roads to take when you get symptoms, right? There's a call to action, there's the universe knocking on your door. You can, and it's totally legitimate, pick the course where you go to the doctor and you get the prescription and you take the pills and you make no change. We have freedom, right? You have the freedom to do that. But you could also choose the other road, less traveled by. You can also, it's harder, right? Nobody's cleared it ahead of you. It takes some effort, but that can make all the difference in your healthcare. So I want to acknowledge that change is hard. It's hard, it's hard, it's hard, it's hard, right? We live stressful lives. We're busy. We're so busy. You have so many people to take care of. I know that just like I had a story, you all have a story that could bring me to tears. All of you could make me cry with what is going on in your life, the things you have to deal with. I know. I'm here on this journey with you. Change is inevitable. It's either going to be good change or bad change. It's not your fault that you're sick. Addressing that the causes are within your control is not assigning blame. It's just noting that you have control. It's also not our fault as a healthcare system. I will tell you that healthcare professionals got into our jobs because we wanted to help people, and we went into a system that told us that this is the best way to help people. We truly want to help. Doctors are overburdened. Pharmacists are running around. We're doing our best, right, in this system, just the same as you are. So no getting mad at your doctors or saying they're evil. They're not part of like a pharmaceutical conspiracy. I mean, the pharmaceutical companies are. But even then, I believe that those are filled with people that think that they're doing the right thing too. There are no quick fixes. I don't have a magic pill for you. You will have setbacks and resistance. So what I mean is you'll make some progress on your diet, and then you'll mess up. And you will have people in your life that will resist you. You will have people in your life that think that you're crazy, or that will try to convince you to not undertake change. And I want you to know that that has nothing to do with you, and that has everything to do with them. It's scary to look within yourself and to want to make these drastic changes. I want to address the fact that not all medications can be stopped. My goal as a pharmacist is to stop as many as I can, but not all of them can be. There's certain ones that are essential. There's certain ones that you will never be able to stop, and that's okay. It's okay to take medications. And what we want to do is make sure you're only on the ones that you need, that do good for you, and that those are optimized. The journey is more important than the destination. So I've been on this journey for 6 years now of regaining my health back, and what I can tell you is that it's not over. I'm still learning things every day. The next time I make this presentation, I will have new information because I am constantly learning. I am constantly experiencing setbacks and resistance. I am shooting myself in the foot on a regular basis, but I'm learning so much about myself and about health. And that is more important than me eventually getting to the point where I never have any acne again. Because I still, like, for example, last night, half a bag of jujubes. Don't normally do it, but I start and I can't stop. So my skin will pay for it, but it's fine. It's totally fine. And the other thing I want to say is that you are worth the effort. Sometimes I start talking to people and they tell me I'm too busy, but I'm looking after my husband, or I'm looking after my parents, or I'm looking after my kids, or these other people have expectations or needs from me, and I want you to know that you are worth it. Even if that little voice inside your head is going to tell you you're not. It's gonna say, just push through. But you can't pour from an empty jug, and that's what we've been doing. So what I want to get to really is, when you water the root of the tree, that water naturally extends to every leaf and every branch and every flower of that tree. So you have leaves and branches and flowers to take care of, right? You have kids, you have family, you have friends, you have responsibilities. By watering your roots, you naturally nourish everything that's connected to you, naturally. So if you're not concerned with yourself like I was back in the day, you can be, if all you can think about is the people around you, then know that the best thing you can do for them is to nourish yourself, to take care of yourself. So now we're into the 5 elements of self-care. So this is going to be a brief overview of the next 5 talks. So my journey, I've been trying to simplify everything I've learned. So these aren't all of the elements of self-care. There's so many things you can do to nourish yourself and restore yourself. But these are the 5 elements that I have found that if most people addressed, you would be like 80% healthier. These are things that I think can apply to most people and are a place to start. First one is water. Hydration, we are 70% water. Our brains are actually 85% water. It's essential for metabolism. If you're in biochemistry at all, there's water molecules in all the little diagrams everywhere. Dehydration is so common these days. Estimates vary. 60 to 80% of people have some form of dehydration. You often don't know that you're dehydrated. I love that you're drinking water. That's fabulous. By the time we get thirsty, we're really dehydrated. So it's very common, and it worsens pretty much everything. Significant widespread symptoms: fatigue, headache, feeling lousy, being grouchy, feeling hungry. They're very non-specific, and it contributes to pain. So when you're dehydrated, you feel awful. And so by rehydrating, we can actually create massive benefits quickly. It's also relatively straightforward to optimize, right? Intake more water. And we'll go into the different ways to do that, because it's not just about drinking, straight water. There's other ways. But this is where I start if I'm coaching somebody, is that start with water. Most people can be like, yeah, I could drink more water. I don't get a ton of resistance from that. So, second one is sleep. So, the reason it's second is because I feel it's actually super, super important, but it's hard for some people. If you're suffering from insomnia, it is emotionally almost traumatic. The fact that you cannot make yourself sleep or stay asleep. Deep restorative sleep is absolutely essential for your health. And so I'm not talking about, drifting into a light sleep that you easily wake up out of. You need to dive down. There's 4 stages of sleep, and you need to spend a bunch of time in that 4th stage. So insomnia is increasingly common. We can tell you by our prescription stats, and it's correlated with disease and with death. It contributes to, so if you have a disease, you're more likely to be sick if you're not sleeping. And also, when you have disease, you're more stressed, you sleep less. So it's this wicked cycle. Some can feel that sleep is beyond their control, that there's nothing that they can do, and so they end up in front of us at the pharmacy. So a lot of people will do sleeping pills. Some people use alcohol or cannabis. What I can tell you is that only gets you to the first 2 stages of sleep. You think you're sleeping, but you don't get the restorative 3rd, 4th levels of brain waves that you need for restoration. So people on sleeping pills think they're sleeping. They go to bed, they lose consciousness, they wake up 7.5 hours later. Boom, did it. But they're not restoring their health. So even modest gains in restorative sleep will produce massive benefits, and it's a cascade. Once you start getting a little bit of benefit, once you start getting a little longer sleep, a little deeper sleep, you start feeling better, you can continue to improve upon that. So sleep is crazy essential, very hard. That's why it's not number 1, it's number 2. Earth is food. So commonly it's recognized as the most important factor in health. It's going to be very tricky to fit that into 1 hour, let me tell you. But I'll do my best in a few weeks. It's profoundly influenced by our community and our society. So where you live, who you hang out with, what your family eats, it determines what you eat. There are so many dietary theories. Paleo, Mediterranean, keto, vegan, carnivore, and bio-individuality is such an important factor. There's not one right diet for that blankets everybody. There's not. We're so different, and diets are tailored to us. That being said, there are certain truths that can be applied to most people, and there are ways to find your proper nutrition. So when I was going through my health coaching course, I tried raw vegan, I tried paleo, I did all of the things to see how it felt. You'll know yours when you try it because you'll feel great. Yes.
So what's yours?
Mine, I like intermittent fasting, and I like occasionally going into keto.
Okay.
Yeah, ketosis. So, but I don't like to stay there. Yeah. So I like the flexibility. I like having junk food every once in a while. But then I like to be able to balance that off by eating better. So weight management, for women is super important. Men too. But for me, my skin determines my level of health. I use that as my barometer, and for me, ketogenic has been the most successful for maintaining a healthy skin. So that one will be a very exciting one. Fire is exercise. So once you're hydrated, once you're getting some sleep, and once you're nourishing yourself with proper food, then you burn your energy. So sitting is the new smoking. So the morbidity and mortality associated with inactivity, with sitting on our butts all day, is now more risky than smoking was. Inactivity is linked with decreased quality of life. It worsens almost every condition, but when you feel sick, you don't feel like exercising. So again, we're in this vicious cycle. There's so many ways to move. So going back to that blue zones note, it's not necessarily about CrossFit, lifting heavy weights, running marathons. It's oftentimes it's just being active in your own house, around your yard, with your friends, just constantly moving as much as possible. Anybody have like a Fitbit or smartwatch? Yeah. Does it remind you to stand up? Yeah. So the reason is that the evidence is that if you don't stand up for a minute every hour, you're increasing your rates of disease. Yeah. So mine is miraculous help. 10 minutes to the hour. It's like, Jen. Ether. So this one's kind of abstract, and it comes back to the stress factor. So ultimately, the most important element, in my opinion, is ether, which is connection. It ties it all together. It's difficult for me to articulate it completely, but essentially, the more time you spend connecting with your inner voice, your inner wisdom, yourself, your voice in your head, the more connected you are, the better care you take of yourself. So the first step is the hardest, right? I started a daily dedicated meditation practice on November 11th of last year. It was something I kind of sporadically did because my yoga teacher told me to do it every once in a while. But I started learning more about it. I started following certain people, and we'll go into that in that module. But I started meditating an hour a day every day, and I did that dedicated for 100 days, and it changed my life. It absolutely 100% changed my life. It is if I could tell you anything at all, it's to sit for an hour every day with your chatter, let it be there, watch it, be uncomfortable, wiggle, move, curse, hate that you're doing this, ask yourself why you're doing this, but sit there and do it, and it will change your life. We'll get more into that. So what happens when you reconnect with yourself, it's hard for you to eat food that makes you feel crappy, because you feel it for an hour. while you're sitting there. It's hard for you to not get enough sleep or to not try to make that a priority because you'll fall asleep when you're trying to meditate. Do the head nod? It's really hard to not do some sort of physical activity because your body gets stiff. And also, when you start connecting with yourself, you start realizing that you are important and that all the stresses that seem so much bigger than us are not. We are bigger than them. And when we connect with ourselves, we can better connect with everybody else around us. And when we are connected, we are capable of literally anything. And so that's where we're heading. Just as an FYI, all the other elements are to get you comfortable in your own body so that by the time I get to meditation, you don't walk out the door. So, the presentation schedule is in your handout as well. So it's every 2 weeks. Ether, as it turns out, was not planned, is immediately after I spend 10 days in a meditation retreat. So it's going to be fabulous. Just saying. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I will be verbal by then. Yeah. But because I will have spent 10 days connecting with myself, that will show. And so that talk is going to be amazing. But we'll start here. So what is your why? So this is your homework, and this is why I gave you journals. If you don't have a journal, we have some more at the front. So what is your why? Why do you want to start taking care of yourself? Have 3 changes that would make the biggest difference in your health. You know what they are. And you don't have to share it. This isn't for me. This is for you. So think about, what are the 3 things you could do for you that would just change your life? If you could do them. It's not a commitment. So, as a suggestion, journal how much and what you eat and drink. Document your sleep and your exercise. So how long you slept for, whether you woke up, how restful it felt, what you did for exercise, how many minutes, and then document how you felt. So if you ate an entire cake, tell me what it felt like an hour after that. Or tell yourself, really. You don't even have to write it down. It just really, really helps. But simply being aware of it can be very helpful. If you have Netflix, Heal is an amazing documentary on yoga as well if you're interested in yoga. And When the Body Says No is a great book. I highly encourage you to explore other information sources. The internet is like drinking from a fire hose. Let me tell you, there's no way I can be up to date on all of the healers that are out there. All of the people that are talking about self-care and diet and sleep and hydration. I'm going to do my best to share the ones that really impacted me. But I definitely implore you, especially if you identify some things that would make the biggest difference in your health, explore information sources on those. I'm on the path too. I'm not standing on a mountaintop with all the answers, right? I am literally on that path less traveled, a step or two ahead, shining a flashlight for you behind me, right? So I'm learning, you're learning. If you want to come on this path with me, I'd love to shine that light for you, but ultimately know that everything you ever need is inside of you. All the answers you ever need are inside of you. What I do is just show you that they're already there. So, join me or not, but I highly encourage you to seek that teacher within, that doctor within, so you can heal yourself. Thank you. Thank you.